Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the Steam Deck in Spider-Man Remastered. As usual, I am using it with an external capture card to capture everything, so I'll be looking up at my external display, not down at the Steam Deck's display, so I can't really comment on quality and stuff like that. Well, I can because I've seen the game running on the Steam Deck's display, but whatever. Let's go over the Steam Deck compatibility tab over here, see that it's verified, and it should work absolutely flawlessly with this game, but it's not always the case, as we've seen in the past with like Hogwarts Legacy and Cyberpunk. Yeah. Well, let's play the game now, shall we? Oh, by the way, let me just apply the software update that came today. So this is going to be played with the August 1st of 2023 update on SteamOS. Let's go over the settings first. I'm playing at 720p resolution, which is almost the same as the 1280 by 800 res found on the Deck's display. Unfortunately, I can't really change it to that res because the capture card doesn't support it, but you'd lose like 1 or 2 FPS at 1280 by 800 instead of 1280 by 720, so it doesn't really matter much. And you can also play at 720p on the Deck's display if you want to. Over on the upscaling side of things, we're running AMD FSR 2.1 with the dynamic resolution scaling targeting 30 FPS. These are default settings for the Steam Deck. I'm starting with those over here, and medium settings, which are also default for the Steam Deck. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and disable the motion blur, and that's gonna be it. All right, that's the only change we're making. And then I'm also gonna test like very low settings, low, high, and very high. And apparently it's gonna be a pretty decent experience. Look at that. If it doesn't stutter, this is pretty good performance. Remember, this is an open world game. It's pretty big. It has some really decent graphics at medium settings, and it's actually very playable with the Steam Deck settings. There are a couple of stutters here and there. I can notice them, but that's completely normal. It also happens in high-end PCs, unless you lock the FPS. Oh, that's something that we should probably do as well, right? That GPU utilization, by the way, is not really maxed out the entire time. So we got a pretty balanced system here with the Steam Deck, which is to be expected, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty good to see that this is actually very playable on a 15-watt APU. Look at that. It's using 9 watts of GPU, around 3 watts of CPU, and it's keeping it above 30 FPS the entire time. Also, in the Deck's display, the FSR actually looks pretty decent. On a computer monitor, it usually doesn't in this game. You can see a lot of halo around moving things and a lot of noise as well. And finally, looking at the entire city from above, it dips down into the high 20s, but it's only in these scenarios. It doesn't really matter, guys. Alright guys, now I just disabled the dynamic resolution scaling here, and this is giving me a slightly worse image. I can see a bit more noise and halo around Spider-Man, but higher FPS. So what the dynamic resolution scaling was doing previously, it was actually rendering the game sometimes at a higher resolution than FSR2 set to quality at 720p. And the end result was an around 30 to 35 FPS experience with a little bit better visual quality than what we're seeing right now. This is now FSR 2.1 on quality, and it's not moving any internal resolution at all. So now we can see a lot more of that noise that I was telling you about that wasn't really noticeable too much, at least on the Steam Deck's display. This is super surprising now, because we're playing on medium settings still, with quality FSR, and we're getting close to 60 FPS at times. It still drops into the 30s, as you can see, and it will dip down into the lower 30s at times, 35, 34, 32, for example. This is very intensive, looking at the city from here. Yep, there we go, 32. But I really expected the opposite thing to happen. I thought disabling the 30 FPS dynamic resolution scale would make us drop into the 20s a little bit more often, but no, it just gave us slightly worse image quality and higher FPS, and it's stuttering less as well. Yes, the DLSS artifacts are more noticeable, but again, on a small monitor they won't be as noticeable, and we're getting like 40 plus most of the time. I would say 32 plus FPS 100% of the time, and the averages would end up at like 40 to 45, maybe. And sometimes it even goes up to 60, which is insane. Look at this over here, which, as I told you, is one of the most GPU-intensive areas in the entire game. It's getting 40 plus FPS right now. That is absolutely insane. That frame time is not completely flat, but I can't really feel much stuttering, especially playing with the controller, guys. I'm really impressed. Let's try it with the upscaler turned off next. Still on medium settings. Since it did so well with the quality FSR, I think at native 720p it will also do a really nice job. Again, expect like 1 or 2 less FPS at the 800p resolution of the Steam Deck. At native resolution in the Central Park area and 720p medium settings, it's getting, what, 35 plus FPS all of the time. That is so surprising and so good. Yeah, it's not 1080p, you know. The ROG Ally, for example, would probably do 1080p medium just fine with more FPS as well. But I can't not be impressed with this, right? It's a 15-watt chip running a full-fat open-world Spider-Man title, not even on the lowest settings. And I honestly would have zero problem playing the game all the way through on the Steam Deck. It performs that well. It's actually getting more FPS than like a PS4, and a lot of people played this on a PS4. Oh, this has gyro controls as well. Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, 60 FPS, look at that. That's crazy, dude. Of course, props to the developers as well, because they did a great job at optimizing this game. A lot of new titles are just terrible when it comes to that, as you probably know. But this game can look good, it can have a big open world, and run very well at the same time. So I set it to very low settings. I'm gonna restart the game because you need to do that on PC, and I'm not sure about Steam Deck. Also, this was locked to 60 frames per second, so I'm actually gonna unlock the FPS now. Okay. And you could also lock it to 30 FPS, of course, to achieve even better frame times, even smoother frame times, as I told you. It's going to run really, really smoothly with locked FPS. But since it was actually very smooth anyways, with the dynamic resolution scaling disabled, it didn't really stutter too much. Well, you can also leave it unlocked. It doesn't really make that much of a difference anyways. You can see that frame time is pretty flawless right now. Really good. And this is now 720p native with the very low settings preset. Would I play like this? Probably not, unless you really are going for stability, like closer to 60 FPS all the time you can. It's unlocked, as you can see. Maybe with FSR it will get 60 plus. Not sure yet though, but I doubt it, honestly. Look at this, 32 frames per second here. It's dropping quite a lot, actually, around this area when looking at all of the buildings from above. Like 32 FPS, I did not expect that on very low settings. But overall, it's going to be 30 plus all of the time. Unfortunately, it just cannot do 60, guys. Let's try FSR2 on... Let's do Performance. Try to go for those 60 all of the time. Alright. Here we go. Yeah, not going to happen, as I told you. It's pretty much... the same thing, maybe a little bit better going up here. Instead of dropping to 32, it drops to 35, but now it looks really pixelated. Oh, 33, 31 again. I guess it's probably a bottleneck somewhere else, not really on the GPU when we're looking at the entire city. I've seen that a lot of GPUs with lower bandwidth struggle a lot here in this particular area, looking at all of the city. So that could be what's happening here. Okay, I turned off the upscaling now, and we should probably try the... You know, I'm gonna skip the low settings. There's no point, right? It's gonna perform a little bit better than medium, a little bit slower than the very low that we just tried. I'm gonna do high settings this time around. Okay, that's not bad. All right. And it's looking way better. As I told you, those reflections are now there, as you can see. Way, way better looking than medium settings here. And still not really stuttery. It's pretty much the same when it comes to stuttering as before. Although it's already getting lower 30. Oh, high 20s, mid 20s even. Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. I'm sorry, guys. All right, here we go. Oh my god, yeah, 23. Oof. No, 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 no. That is terrible. All right. At least it's not stuttering, but that is pretty terrible. You can't really play on high settings, at least at native 720p. But again, I'm already really impressed with the performance that we've seen so far, so can't really be mad at this, right? It's high settings in a 2022 title on PC, but yeah, even with FSR set to quality, it's not getting us those 30 plus all of the time, guys, unfortunately. Yep. With these drops into the mid-20s, I wouldn't really play like this, okay? It's just not going to be a very enjoyable experience. It drops too much, it's too inconsistent, basically. So I'm going to try to use the dynamic resolution scaling here. Will it upscale the image to 30 FPS? Ah, look at the frame time now, dude. Ooh, that is rough. That is rough, and it's still dropping into the 20s. So the dynamic resolution scale thingy is just not really that good. At the beginning, we saw more stuttering with it enabled, even with 30 plus FPS all of the time. A little bit better visual fidelity, but I wouldn't trade those sweet 30 plus FPS all of the time with smooth frame times. It's just not worth using this setting over here. Let's turn it off again. Try like balanced FSR. I doubt it's gonna make a difference, honestly, because at this point it is a bandwidth limitation, I think. 29, 25, it's pretty much the same thing, no matter how much we drop the internal resolution with FSR. It's never gonna be playable here, okay? Or at least not if you want 30 plus FPS all of the time. To solidify what I'm talking about, I'm gonna try Ultra Performance FSR 2. Ooh, that's so bad. What the hell? Now it isn't playable even if it doesn't drop from 30, but it will still drop from 30. All right, 27, 29 right there. Yep, see that? No matter how much you drop the resolution, high settings just ain't gonna happen with playable FPS. Wow, that is just insane. I thought by this time they had fixed it, you know? Should we try like very high settings just for fun? Why not, right? We want the benchmark to be complete. Let's try a bunch of settings. And here we are, native 720p resolution, playing at very high settings on a 15-watt APU. And sometimes it's still capable of achieving 30 plus, you know? If you swing low, you can play this game with the maximum preset, not maximum settings, okay? With 30 plus FPS down here. Let's go ahead and try like FSR Quality. Not gonna test lower than quality. You've already seen that it's pretty much the same thing. Getting 40 still. It is pretty impressive, dude. Wow. Ooh, so stuttery though. At this point, I think it is actually running out of system memory as well as VRAM. The VRAM is shared, of course. But yeah, this game uses a lot of VRAM at the very high settings. And it just doesn't have enough. It's using, yeah, you can see right there in the on-screen display. It's using 6.7 gigs of VRAM and 10.3 gigs of RAM. I don't even know how that's possible, honestly, because it only has 16 gigs in total, but okay. So we're back to native 720p, and I'm gonna set it down to medium again, but with the high textures. And these settings are very good for the best visuals to performance ratio on the Steam Deck, and even on many PCs out there, honestly. This is likely the best way to play this game on Steam Deck. You can see VRAM is at 5 gigs. That's to be expected. It also utilized around 5 gigs on my GTX 1066GB model. RAM is also under control at 9 gigs almost. It's not really stuttering much. I can feel a little bit of stuttering, but it's not terrible. And if you lock the FPS, it's going to be really, really smooth. All right. Oh, 29, 26. Sometimes it can drop, guys. Sometimes it can drop to the mid-20s, but you actually gotta try. Yeah, not bad. I would actually play with these settings. Look at the reflections there, for example, in that building. They are way better looking than medium once again. And lastly, I'm just gonna lock the FPS to 30 right here. There is a bit of input lag caused by the Steam Deck. That's always normal in games. When you lock it to 30, you're going to feel a bit of input lag. 25, it's even worse, and it starts becoming pretty bad. But I think you can actually get used to it here in Spider-Man Remastered, since you don't really need very quick reactions. And look at that frame time graph now. It is gorgeous. This is what you want. It is super flat, zero stuttering whatsoever, and now we're playing this game at 720p native resolution using TAA, which does look a lot better than OFF or SMAA in this game. Those look super shimmery for some reason. TAA looks soft, but again, on such a small display, it doesn't really matter. I just want to go to that Central Park area, guys. By the way, over here you can see a lot of good-looking ambient occlusion down there. Oop, a little bit of another stutter there. So those will happen from time to time. It's probably because of the RAM or system memory being maxed out. So I guess they hit it spot on, like medium settings preset is the best way to play this. But if you want a bit better visual fidelity, and I would want that, high textures with medium settings the way to go. That's been it. If you were wondering if you should buy this game on the Steam Deck, go for it. It runs very well for what it is. And I really enjoyed making this one. Very impressive results indeed. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.